Most of our planet is covered in deep, dark water, full of terrifying creatures and strange things. From an 11-foot marble crucifix to a rare World War II fighter plane, here are the 15 incredible things found underwater. Number 15. An 11-foot marble crucifix. This eerie but amazing 11-foot, 1,800-pound marble crucifix first made waves on the internet in 2019, and many of you may not believe where it is located. This amazing sculpture is submerged under about 20 feet of water and ice, about 800 feet from shore, in Little Traverse Bay, off Petoskey. Anyone with scuba gear can easily spot this life-size statue of a crucified Jesus Christ. Its haunting image is quite appropriate for its backstory. The crucifix was created in Italy in 1956 by a family mourning the loss of their 15-year-old son in a tragic gun accident. However, when the statue was transported to the church, it was quite evident that it had not survived the long journey. It had unsightly damage, including a broken arm. So the family decided that it was not worthy of honoring their dead son. And so, rather than let the crucifix go to waste, they sold it to a local diver from the Upper Navy Divers Club in 1962. The statue was then submerged in 65 feet of water to honor a diver who tragically drowned in Torch Lake. As time passed, the crucifix was later rededicated to all those who had lost their lives underwater. More than 20 years later, it was moved inland, where it remains to this day. Number 14. Crossed sword. It seems that divers always have an exciting day. After all, you never know what you might discover underwater. In 2021, a diver casually exploring off the coast of Israel stumbled upon something quite definite. He discovered nothing less than a meter-long knight's sword, along with other treasures and artifacts, pieces of pottery, anchors, relics, all dated between the 11th and 13th centuries. This crusader sword is an incredible find, despite having been submerged for 900 years. Although it looks like it has been underwater for a long time, it has been covered by a thick layer of shells and sediment. It may not look like much, but that layer formed slowly over the centuries. The sword itself was about a meter long with a 30-centimeter hilt. Within the layer of sediment, the blade is still perfectly preserved. It is always great to discover underwater artifacts, especially things as significant as this one. Many centuries ago, this sword, covered in shells and sediment, was a powerful weapon wielded by a knight intent on fighting for what he believed in. Number 13. Underwater crop circles. You've probably heard of crop circles by now. These are strange shapes and patterns that appear out of nowhere in the middle of fields. Initially, they were thought to be patterns created by extraterrestrials. However, this has proven not to be the case. Some crop circles have not been created by extraterrestrial creatures, but by talented human artists. But what about underwater crop circles? These patterns can often be found underwater. The first ones were spotted in 1995 off the coast of southern Japan, and these strange patterns immediately caused a sensation among the public. Many were puzzled as to what exactly they were. After all, they were not found in a single location. It wasn't long before other divers from different countries claimed to have seen these mysterious circles. The mystery persisted for more than a decade, until 2011, when the culprit was finally caught. No, the mysterious circles were not made by a group of divers trying to fool the world, but by a male pufferfish. I know it's pretty amazing, but these creatures that are barely 6 inches tall create these elaborate designs to woo a female pufferfish. I know. Such hard work, right? Male pufferfish typically spend 7 to 9 days building circles by repeatedly swimming in and out of the ring. They also use their fins to lift fine sand particles and build elaborate patterns. Once they are satisfied with the sand formation, they often decorate the beaks with shell and coral fragments. Number 12. Remains of the RMS Titanic. Also known as the Ship of Dreams, the RMS Titanic set sail on her maiden voyage on April 10, 1912. She was then known as the most luxurious ship and was touted as the great unsinkable Titanic. Unfortunately, Titanic never had the opportunity to make another voyage. After the first, the Titanic tragically sank. Of the 2,240 passengers and crew on board, 1,500 people lost their lives. Today, many people still recognize the name Titanic, but all that remains is a tragic wreck. Artifacts and relics are still recovered from the wreck, and each has its own story. Expeditions found an old violin among the wreckage of the Titanic, and it is one of the artifacts with the most heartbreaking story. As the Titanic slowly sank, it was said that the musicians on board kept playing a sad symphony, as if they already knew they would die with the ship. The violin they discovered belonged to the band's leader, Wallace Hartley, and although the violin was already in poor condition, it still sold for the figure of $1.7 million during an auction in the United Kingdom in 2013. They also found a menu from the ship's last meal, which was also auctioned in 2012. And just like the old violin, it sold for the lofty price of $83,000. If you are curious to know what the passengers ate on their last day on the Titanic, the menu consists of several dishes, including eggs, chicken argentois, wing, Maryland oysters, barley cream, poached salmon with muslin sauce and cucumbers, and much more. Number 11. Yonaguni Monument. Since its discovery in the mid-1980s, this underwater rock structure near Yonaguni Island, Japan, puzzled many scholars and researchers about its history and origin. A diver first discovered the rectangular monument more than 165 feet long and about 65 feet wide. It was unlike any other rock formation in the area. It appeared much more precise, had straight lines and angles, and supposedly also had engravings. Many believed the mysterious stone formation was a man-made step pyramid, but many scholars also had different theories. Some say the Yonaguni Monument is an ancient submerged city that was possibly home to a lost civilization that disappeared at least 5,000 years ago. There are many ancient structures found underwater, including BA and Rome, so this theory is not really impossible. However, there is insufficient evidence to prove that the Yonaguni Monument was actually part of an ancient city rather than an ancient civilization. The Yonaguni Monument may have been formed simply by the tectonic activity of our planet. Meanwhile, the holes and scratches may have been formed by underwater eddies, which are basically water moving in a circular pattern. Regardless of how this formation came about, it is still quite amazing to look at. Number 10. Underwater Temple Garden. Located in Pemotaran, Bali, this underwater temple garden is definitely one of the most amazing things found in the ocean. This emerged temple was discovered in 2019, and the whole world was amazed. Apparently, this incredible temple was built 5,000 years ago, but due to the eruption of a volcano and the rise of the seawater level, the magnificent structure was submerged. Or at least that's how the popular story goes. When a photo of this underwater temple first hit the internet, many people enthusiastically claimed it as an ancient temple. The reality, however, is a bit more anticlimactic. This underwater temple is known as Tamanpura Taman, which means garden in Indonesian, and Pura, which means temple in Balinese, Hindi. This temple is not an ancient structure. Instead, it is the creation of Chris Brown, an Australian who has been living in the Pemotaran area. He made this dive site together with Paul Turley. Both of them and the other collaborators built this dive site to promote diving in the Pemotaran area. The result is quite positive. The whole enclosure contains magnificent statues and eventually became a real underwater temple that not only helped the area to attract more divers, but also the underwater biodiversity. Number 9. Amberjack Hole. Amberjack Hole is a mysterious blue hole located 30 miles off the coast of Sarasota, Florida. Its edge is approximately 112 feet below the surface of the water and extends to 236 feet. It is considered an advanced dive because of its depth and distance from shore. If you're already afraid of the ocean, what I'm about to tell you will probably make you more nervous. But the ocean does sometimes open up and consume areas of the seafloor. It is quite similar to sinkholes on land, similar to the ones that sometimes consume houses in Florida. Unlike sinkholes, these openings in the ocean are called blue holes, and to this day we don't know much about them. Blue holes are usually filled with a great diversity of underwater plants and animals. But other than that, we don't know what else is inside them, how many there are, or where they will appear. To this day, there are still many things to be discovered about these blue holes, but who knows, maybe we will soon find out more about them. Number 8. World War II. Silver. In 2013, a British team of divers successfully completed the deepest salvage operation in history. The wreck was found in 2011, some 300 miles off the coast of Ireland, and salvaging the ship was no easy task. After all, it was by far the deepest salvage operation, meaning that this wreck was much more difficult to reach than the Titanic. Initially, they sent an underwater robot to survey the area. They attempted to recover what was left of a British merchantman sunk during World War II. They found a staggering 61 tons of silver, valued at some $36 million, among the wreckage. It was no easy task to transport some 1,574 bars of silver, but it was well worth it. On the day the ship called the Guerre Sapa sank, she was bound from India for Liverpool, England. It was carrying important goods, including tea, iron, and of course, the valuable silver bullion. Incredibly, bad weather and a shortage of coal led the steamer to become separated from her military convoy off the coast of Ireland, and it wasn't long before she was attacked and sunk by a torpedo. Number 7. Tire Graveyard. Coral reefs are incredibly important. More than 500 million people depend on reefs for food and shelter. In addition to being an important source of income, coral reefs provide an essential ecosystem for underwater creatures and protect coastal areas by reducing the force of waves hitting the shore. The Earth's oceans also support the lives of more than 3 billion people. Without the reefs and the ocean, the entire planet would suffer. For this reason, many are now actively trying to preserve coral reefs and reduce waste in our waters. That is why it is quite heartbreaking to see thousands of tires in the ocean. This tire graveyard is located off the coast of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and the entire site was supposed to be an artificial reef called Osborne Reef. The initial intent of the project was novel. People would dispose of their old tires and rest easy, knowing that the tires they threw away provided additional habitats for marine life. Unfortunately, instead of nurturing underwater biodiversity, it ended up doing more harm than good. After seeing the results, or lack thereof, the U.S. military took it upon themselves to recover the tires using the operation as dive and rescue training as well. As of 2009, only 73,000 tires had been recovered. 2 million tires were originally dumped underwater, and, as of today, about 700,000 tires still remain on Osborne Reef. Osborne Reef is not the only artificial reef constructed from old tires. Similar reefs have been made in Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia, and Africa, and each had bad consequences rather than positive results. Number 6. Blackbeard's Pirate Canyons. Many of us have read or seen stories about pirates. You may be familiar with a fictional pirate named Blackbeard, but did you know that he actually existed a long time ago? Edward Teach, or better known as Blackbeard, is a notorious English pirate who sailed the Caribbean in the early 18th century, what is considered the golden age of piracy. He is best known for having sailed on the ship Queen Anne's Revenge. Blackbeard has quite a reputation. Like pirates in works of fiction, he and his crew don't really have the most stellar or positive history. For starters, many claim that Blackbeard had as many as 14 wives. He always had swords, knives, and guns in his possession, ready to attack anyone. In fact, people who saw him fight often claim that he was the devil in battle. His story may not be the most positive, but the artifacts associated with him are still quite important. Like the pirate that he is, one of the things he left behind is a 300-year-old cannon known as a sea tree. It is approximately 8 feet long and weighs a staggering 2,000 pounds. The people who found the cannon never expected to see it during their dive. When the huge artifact came to light, it was completely covered with sand, barnacles, and shells. The huge cannon attracted several curious onlookers, but was eventually recovered safe and sound. Number 5. The Christ of the Abyss. If you are unfamiliar with underwater statues, seeing a 9-foot-tall bronze statue of Christ some 25 feet underwater can be a truly amazing and unique experience. The combination of the majesty of the bronze and the underwater environment creates a mesmerizing setting that captivates the senses and leaves a lasting impression in the minds of those who have the opportunity to witness it. Surpassing any previous expectations, this statue reveals itself to be a masterpiece of sculpture, with its meticulously crafted details capturing the serene and divine expression of Christ. The light filtered through the water creates a magical atmosphere, providing soft, ethereal lighting that highlights the statue's beauty and creates a sense of tranquility and mystery. Rather than being simply stunning, this underwater statue is a hidden gem that reveals its essence in every glance, inviting contemplation and awakening a deep appreciation for the fusion of art and nature. This bronze statue, known as Christ of the Abyss, was initially lowered into the water off the coast of Key Largo, Florida, on August 20, 1965. The entire statue weighs about 260 kilograms, but the concrete base to which it is attached weighs a whopping 9 tons. There are 2 other bronze sculptures similar to this one in the world. One was placed in the Mediterranean Sea on August 22, 1954, and the other in Granada in 1961. Number 4. The submarine steam locomotive. The steam locomotive is one of the world's most important inventions. It served as a catalyst for change and helped us progress and develop. The steam engine made it possible to transport people and goods faster and more efficiently. In 2013, archaeologists announced that they had discovered an underwater train graveyard off the coast of New Jersey. There, they found not 1, but 2 incredibly rare locomotives dating back to the 1850s. The 2 locomotives were amazingly preserved, despite having been submerged under 90 feet of water for over 100 years. The discovery of these trains enraptured many people, but also perplexed many historians and researchers. No one knows how exactly the trains ended up at the wreck site. There are no historical records of them being lost at sea, nor of any cars disappearing. It is possible that the trains were transported on a ship, but were swept away in a heavy storm. However, it is still rather suspicious that there are no reports or records of them being lost. Perhaps we have discovered a long-forgotten worker's mishap. I guess, after all, nothing remains a secret. Number 3. Atlit Yam. Off the coast of Atlit in Israel lies an ancient Neolithic settlement that is between 8,900 and 8,300 years old. The settlement, called Atlit Yam, has the oldest known evidence of a marine agro-pastoral system. Thousands of years ago, a group of people supported themselves not only by farming, but also by raising livestock and harvesting the blessings of the ocean. Underwater excavations of the site uncovered rectangular houses, a well, and several artifacts, including a human skeleton. However, the most important feature at Atlit Yam was a stone semicircle containing 7 megaliths, each weighing 1,300 pounds. Each stone had cup marks worn into them and were arranged around a freshwater spring. Such formations indicate water rituals. This further proves that the people of the time were not only engaged in agriculture and livestock raising, but also in marine provisions. Apparently, over time, the water from the well became contaminated with seawater, forcing the inhabitants of the settlement to abandon it. Gradually, the seawater began to rise and submerged the entire settlement as well. Number 2. Hunting camp. In the year 2014, an impressive group of brave and passionate underwater researchers had the extraordinary opportunity to make a discovery of epic proportions. It was beneath the serene and mysterious surface of majestic Lake Huron that an astonishing revelation unfolded before their eyes. A complex and sophisticated network of hunting blinds and fascinating structures designed for herding animals, estimated to be approximately 9,000 years old. This historical find takes us back in time and gives us a glimpse of how our ancestors managed to survive and thrive in harmony with nature. Back then, Lake Huron was not as deep as it is today. In that time period, it is estimated that the lake level was approximately 250 feet lower, which allowed for a narrow land bridge connecting the 2 sides of Lake Huron. It is surprising to discover that our ancestors, 9,000 years ago, conducted an organized caribou hunt. The hunting grounds they found had an elaborate set of linear stone pathways and V-shaped structures that helped the people of the time round up and enclose the caribou herds that migrated across the exposed land bridge. Our ancestors back then seem to have modified the shapes of the hunting camp according to the season of the year. Number 1. The World War II airplane. As the saying goes, there are more planes in the ocean than submarines in the sky. In 2018, divers announced that they had found a rare World War II aircraft on the bottom of the Coral Sea. At a depth of almost 3,000 meters and some 800 kilometers off the east coast of Australia, the Battle of the Coral Sea was the first purely aerial battle in history. All ships in battle attacked their enemies purely with aircraft without directly seeing each other's ships. Therefore, finding the wreckage of an aircraft that participated in the battle is extremely important. Researchers discovered the wreckage of the USS Lexington, which was an aircraft carrier. However, shortly after the discovery, They announced that they had also found the final resting place of 216 soldiers and airmen who lost their lives in the Battle of the Coral Sea. Without the sonar and seafloor mapping instruments available to us today, this discovery would not have been possible. The same is true of the advanced submersibles that allow us to see hundreds or thousands of meters underwater. We may have discovered many things underwater, but perhaps as our technology continues to advance, we will be able to see more and more interesting things that have been forgotten underwater. What do you think of these underwater discoveries? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, take a look at some of the other interesting things on display right now, and we'll see you in the next video.